Welcome to Dumb Guys. This is our 2017 Fantasy Baseball Draft Picks 41 through 100.
Dumb Guys.
Yes, and this is a great part of the draft. I usually load up on pitching in this part of the draft because I go hitting early, but I also get some good hitters and I get myself ahead of everyone else here. This is where you put together a real complete team.
Right.
In this range.
And this is the meat of your team right here
really
through
is.
this part of the draft.
Yeah, and if you can find those guys that really fill in, say, like your stolen bases or those home runs that you need, or like the strikeouts that you need from your pitching, that's how you get a championship team put together.
That's
it's
right.
kind of in this range.
Yep.
So I guess I could start here.
Yeah, go ahead and get us going.
So I didn't go in any sort of order, but the first guy I wrote down was Todd Frazier. He's going number 61 in Yahoo. And this guy I put down because there's about 3 or 4 third basemen in the first round. And then this guy's kind of the next one that comes up. There's also Adrian Beltre, but I'm not that high on him. I picked up Todd Frazier here because every year, I think about 5 or 6 years in a row, he's been at least 30 home runs. He's picked up some stolen bases. He's had a high of about 28 stolen bases. Last year was 40 home runs and 15 steals. The only reason he's not in a class of, say, like a Josh Donaldson is because he doesn't have the month in, month out consistency. But he's falling all the way to pick 61, and getting 40 home runs and 15 steals type potential here is pretty good.
Yeah. I've got him actually at the average draft position of 70.
Oh,
That's what he was today when I looked at him. I'm not really high on Frazier myself, especially for a third baseman because, again, I'm going to say it one more time. You're going to get sick of me saying this. I want a third baseman in the first round because that's where the talent is. And then, yeah, you're right. They drop really far down. There's another third baseman, though, that I'm going to talk about later in this video that I'm going to take before him. But here's my problem. He always seems to have a drop-off in the second half. So his consistency isn't there. He did hit 40 home runs last year. He hit 35 home runs the year before that. He hit 29 home runs, I think, the 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. So he's got the power, but he's not. His batting average is really low. So he had the most strikeouts of his career last year with 163 strikeouts. But the White Sox don't have a very good team around him. So that concerns me.
Well, one thing about him, though, is that he's always had the stolen bases and the home runs put together. Like, it's a low for him to get 29. It's a low for him to get 15 steals.
Yeah.
Another thing I mentioned here is that I had a draft where I picked both him and Chris Bryant because they're both third base, first base eligible.
Right.
Just to give me that flexibility.
You got a lot of flexibility, yeah. That's the one thing he does have. He's got the first base flexibility. You could throw him in a utility spot. And on a positive note, he did set career highs last year in runs, home runs, and RBI.
Yeah.
So he's definitely somebody to look at around 70. He's just not my favorite guy. Okay, so
right, on to Barry's pick.
That's not the guy that I would take before him. This is way down at the average draft position of 44. Is Jonathan Villar? No, wait, Villar's a shortstop.
He's a utility. He's short, second, and third.
That's right. That's right, and that's why I like him because he's got flexibility. So here I am. I'm on my game right now.
Yeah.
Okay. 62 stolen bases and 19 home runs last year. Right? You want stolen bases? This is the guy that's going to bring you stolen bases. The flexibility, and when you compare him to Bogarts and Lindor, who are going way before he is, he's got comparable home runs, way more stolen bases, and a higher OPS. I think that at shortstop, third base, whatever flex position, I think he's got more value than guys going second, third round. He's going in the middle of the fifth round.
Yeah, so if he does repeat last year, he's one of those out of the blue guys. So if you really believe last year, then go for it. He's also got the flexibility. I don't think I've ever had him on my team in a mock draft, even though I wouldn't hate it. But typically, I've already taken like Correa as my shortstop. I've taken one of the top third basemen at this point. And so I just haven't had as much of a reason to take him at 40.
Yeah, you got other guys.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a lot of value, and even if he doesn't hit 19 home runs, let's say he hits 15 home runs or a little bit less than that, but still steals about 50 or 60 bases, there's a lot of value there.
Yeah. All right, so in my no particular order I'm going in right now, I've got a pitcher here, and that's Garrett Cole. I think I put together some good teams, and this is about like the second pitcher I'm taking in the draft or so. He's off to a good start in spring training. I saw an article, he had a little bit of a down year because an injury caused him to kind of hurt his effectiveness overall. But he's working on getting his velocity back, the movement back on his fastball. He's off to a good start in spring. And I just think he's a huge ace. Like the year before last, he was about 19 wins, a lot of strikeouts. He doesn't quite get like the 9 or 10 strikeouts per inning, more like 8 or 9. But as far down as he's going, I got him at 81 Yahoo. I think he's like an ace or a breakout type guy, a guy that can really make your pitching staff, being able to go that late.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of talent. He's definitely got bounce back potential. But he was on the DL 3 times last year. He hurt me in my league because I picked him up with elbow problems. And elbow problems are concerning. So the thing is if he can stay healthy, I think he's a great grab around this area of the draft. But don't let him anchor your rotation like I did last year, because he was my first pitcher. Yeah. Of course, he was coming off a great season, but don't let him ruin you.
Yeah, it depends on how you use pitching. I really love to go with the swapping guys out that have 2 starts. So I'm not really rooted to any one starter. I like to most of my bench to be starters because I swap them out.
And I know your pitching strategy, what you're talking about, is very similar to what I've had in the past, which is wait on pitching and plug your holes as you go. And I think that's a good strategy. But I also think that there's probably value in going heavy pitching with real aces like Kershaw, like Bumgarner, guys like that.
I'm really interested to see if you do that this year.
I'm interested to see if I do it too. I haven't decided if I'm going to go that way. Okay, next guy on my list, I've got Kyle Seager. This is the guy at third base he's basically the first real third baseman that falls on this list after the first round, I think. And I think he's at ADB 50, so he's around the 6th round. What I like about him, he's hit more home runs every year, more home runs over the previous year, every year for the past 5 years. So he hit 20 home runs, 22, 25, 26, 30 home runs. So he's a rising star. He's improving every year. I think that kind of consistent improvement is a very positive thing to look at. Also had the highest OPS of his career last year with an 859 OPS. It's a pretty decent OPS in our OPS league. And he's going into his age 29 season, which I know you really like that for power hitters.
Yeah, that's a good number. I had him on my team, I think it was 2 years ago, and he had 25 home runs. He's not a monster. Like, he's one of those guys that if you didn't get a top third baseman, he's fine to fall back on. I was kind of surprised how high he was going. I think you have him written down at 50. I've had some drafts where he's gone in the 40s. And that type of range, I don't know if he matches up with some of those players in that range. Because I think you're talking like Braun, JD Martinez, Stanton, those types of guys.
And also to clarify here, I put my list together to talk about guys that we haven't talked about in some of our previous videos. So I'm talking about this guy. He's not necessarily the guy I'm going to take at this range, but he's definitely got some positives that I'm pointing out here for you if he does fall to you in your draft.
Yeah, well, I think it's good to have some guys like this on your list because, say, for example, if you end up with like the 10th pick and all those good third basemen are gone, so you're not panicking. You've got somebody to fall back on.
Exactly.
All right, I think it's my turn. And this is a guy that I don't think I've ever taken or considered that much, and it's Cole Hamels. Part of it is because he's so consistent, he's boring. His consistency is kind of like overkill. Because like since 2010, I think his lowest strikeout total was like 194, and his highest was 210. So to go like 6 years, and you're talking a gap of about 15 strikeouts a year. Also his wins, like 13, 15, 16 wins. He just does that every year. Right about 200 innings pitched. And he's fallen in a spot to where he could be like about the third pitcher you take. He's going about 92 at Yahoo. I had some teams where I took Cole and then one other pitcher, then Garrett Cole, another pitcher, then Cole Hamels. And I thought my pitching staff looked pretty good overall. And he's one of those guys that's never been injured. I think he's had one season of like 26 starts. That was like, and then he's been like 30 or so starts every year since then.
He actually, when he came up, he was deemed an injury risk. But then he came into the majors and he's never been hurt. Yeah. And that's exactly what I was going to say. He's very consistent. He's always been healthy. 200 innings pitched, 7 years straight. He is, a 200 strikeout per year guy, but maybe a little bit less than that. And you're right, wins. Texas is a good team. Texas is going to win games. he's going to win games along with him. He won 15 games last year with Texas. So I think he's solid in the end of the 9th round.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go to
Barry's list now.
My next guy here. And the next guy that I have is a guy that I'm not really targeting.
No.
And that's Jose Abreu.
Oh, yeah.
And, talking about the White Sox and Frazier earlier, I think this is a guy in that lineup who's declining. And he's only been in the league for 3 years, I think. But I think he's consistently declined year over year. Home runs, doubles, RBIs, OPS have all been lower than the previous year. What other notes do I have here? He came into the league at age 27. So he's already 30. He's only been in the league for 3 years. He's already 30 years old. He could be okay, but I am concerned with that decline. I know you were high on him a couple of years ago, and you got him at the right time because he had his best season, I think his rookie year.
Yeah.
But, since then, it's been downhill. And don't get me wrong, I mean, his numbers don't look terrible, but the decline is concerning to me.
Yeah. And what's interesting? I just watched another YouTube video talking about Jose Abreu, and they're comparing to the guy I'm going to talk about next. It's kind of an interesting comparison because Abreu was 25 home runs last year, and I actually almost picked him up in a mock draft I did, and I looked at stats, and I was really surprised he only hit 25 home runs.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that people thought would be 35, 40 home runs every year. And the arguments I've heard is that he's still got that kind of a ceiling, and that the 25 home run season last year is a blip on the radar, but he's going kind of high at first base. I don't know if I'd rather wait for like a Hosmer or something like that much later if I missed out on a top first baseman.
Yeah, and he's going average draft position 53, so that's the beginning of the 6th round if you're in a 10-man league.
Yeah, and I think there's some guys that have, well, I'll just go right into my next guy, and I've got Matt Carpenter, and this is a guy that's first base eligible. He's number 73 Yahoo. He's first base, second base, and third base eligible, and I heard some people comparing him to Abreu and saying this guy can hit as many home runs as Abreu did last year. Last year he missed a little bit of time and still hit 21 home runs in 129 games. The year before that he hit 28, and the few years before that he hit hardly any home runs. But I heard that was because he adjusted his swing, and so 28 home runs is not a surprise anymore. They're expecting that to be fairly normal, and the position flexibility you get out of this guy. Going the slate. He's probably the most valuable at second base just because the 28 home runs is probably the most rare at second base. But just being able to swap him around your lineup between these 3 spots is pretty valuable. It can make it so you use less of your bench players for position players and more for pitching if that's your strategy, if you've got a flexibility guy like this.
Yeah. So interestingly, I have Matt Carpenter on my list as well. I like him. He's another third base option if you don't get one of those big names. He's also got the flexibility, which you pointed out, can play first, second, or third in Yahoo leagues. You're so right about his 25-plus home runs. The only concern I have with him is he's got the same injury in spring training right now that sidelined him last year.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a concern. But some other positives is that St. Louis, right? St. Louis?
Yeah.
They added Dexter Fowler, and that'll push Matt Carpenter out of the leadoff spot. I think he played a lot in the leadoff spot, so he's going to have more RBI opportunities this year. So I think he's a good option.
Yeah.
Around that draft
Remember
pick.
We went to the Angels game last year and he had a leadoff home run in the game.
That's
We
right.
were barely sitting
That's
in our
right.
seats and
Yes.
we're like, what happened? And he hit a home run, like one of the first pitches of the game.
That was actually a really good game because I had a couple guys in that hit home runs.
Yeah, you had Matt Holliday in it.
Matt Holliday and I think Yadier Molina.
Yeah, they
as
both
well.
hit home
they
runs.
both did very well.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move up my list here because you stole my number 7 guy.
Oh, geez.
The next guy that I want to talk about is Yoenis Cespedes.
Oh.
I don't know if I'm saying that name right. Is that right? Yoenis?
I don't know.
Yoenis? Yoenis Cespedes.
It's not Fred, so it's kind of hard to say.
That's all we can do is
Yeah.
we can say Fred and Tom. And,
Yeah.
okay. Well, anyways, at average draft position, 56, a good outfielder going at a discount. And I say that because I think he's going to be really good. He's killing it in spring training right
Yeah.
now. I think he's got 4 home runs. He's batting .500 with a almost an 1100 OPS and 0 strikeouts.
Wow.
So far through spring. He should be good for 30 home runs and an upper 800, maybe even 900 OPS for the season. And I've had him on my team before, and he's carried me through weeks. He's won me weeks before with his play. I remember actually one Sunday I was way down. I was miserable.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in the mall watching, and he hit like a grand slam. He had like 6 RBIs. He just killed it for me, and he flipped it. I won the week all because of him.
Nice. Yeah, he's actually on my list, so I guess I'll skip right to that. So I have him here mainly because he kind of stands out around the people he's going around. I see what you're talking about. Like I mentioned how he's going at the same time as Jonathan Villar and Kyle Seager, so it's a couple guys you got on your list.
Right, a couple guys on my list.
So he's going at the same time as those guys. Cespedes was 8th in MVP voting this year. He was very good on the Mets the year before, and he's coming back to the Mets. It just, for some reason, he seems to play well on their team, even though they have kind of a bad hitter's ballpark. Mm-hmm. But I think he likes the big city.
Yeah.
He crushes it there.
Yeah, I think the hype, he digs the hype,
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is I think the Mets are supposed to be good. They're supposed to contend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be advantageous for him.
Yeah, I actually have that as a note here. They'll contend, so they won't be resting him at the end of the year last year. You want those guys that'll finish strong because we have playoffs in our league.
Right.
And how he performed in home run derbies, he can even steal bases if the Mets decide. He's one of those guys that can do anything he decides to do with the amount of talent he's got.
Yeah.
Also, an interesting thing is if you go to YouTube and put in Willie Mays' swing and then Cespedes, they're so similar.
Wow, really?
They got kind of similar builds. They're both like 5'10" guys with huge shoulders. So you can kind of see why he's such a good hitter. He's got a similar swing to Willie Mays.
Yeah, that's not a bad guy to be compared to.
Yeah. All right, I guess I went to mine, so it's yours again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do another one.
Yeah, because I did my Yoenis Cespedes.
That's right. Okay. So the next guy on my list is a third baseman that I will not be targeting, and that is Adrian Beltre. He's going ADP 60, so around the same area as Cespedes and a couple of the other guys I just talked about. He's an aging third baseman.
Yeah.
And what concerns me is he had a bounce back year last year, so that line looks really appealing. But if you go back to his previous couple of seasons, I think he was hitting like 19 home runs, something like that. And so I think he's kind of over the hill when it comes to third baseman.
Yeah, I think he's 39, right around there.
38 once the season starts.
38 once. Yeah, it's super risky to take that guy that just falls off the cliff. It seems like guys just hit a point where they just don't have the hand-eye coordination speed anymore to hit 90-mile-an-hour fastballs, and they're just done.
Yeah.
And it's usually around that age.
Right.
And there's so many other third basemen in this draft.
Well, and that's my last point that I made, that if I'm waiting that long for a third baseman, I'm going to wait a little bit longer and take a guy like Carpenter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Carpenter's a little safer. Beltre, you just never know. Maybe he does it again, but
he could have a great season.
But it would defy all odds, I think.
I mean, even if he does, I think it's just you're taking too much of a chance there on a stacked position.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you are. All right, so I've actually got a guy I'm going to knock that he's a dud, I think, and that's Hanley Ramirez. I've got him at 59 ranked Yahoo. He's one of those guys you just don't know what Hanley Ramirez is going to show up that year. I had a time back when he was in the Marlins where I picked him in the first round, and he totally dudded out on me.
Yeah.
He hit 31 home runs last year. He's only first base eligible anymore. And I don't think I'd be happy with my team if that was my first baseman. And I have that he's going above guys like Frazier, Carpenter, Lucroy, Dee Gordon, and Adam Jones. Wow. And I think I'd rather have any of those guys that he's going above.
Oh, yes.
So I would just say let somebody else pick Hanley Ramirez
and
deal with that drama.
I'm totally with you. I wrote my note here. I said I don't like him.
Yeah.
and it's just because he had a good year last year, but I don't expect the same production out of him. And you're right. It's like you could get MVP Hanley Ramirez, or you could get lazy guy running out there, doing whatever he's gonna do. Got a guy
already showing up.
And here's the thing too: no Big Papi hitting in front of him in the lineup.
Yeah.
He's going to be DHing a lot, playing first base. Yeah. He doesn't steal bases anymore.
No, and I think there's some guys on that Red Sox team that just make me wonder if they're just going to fall off next year. Because, I mean, Mookie Betts, we've talked about Xander Bogaerts. They had great years and could have good years next year, but just don't quite live up to what they did last year. So it's hard to say the Red Sox will have the offensive production that they had last year.
Well, there's a lot of hype around them, but I don't know. I just those young guys, they could have great seasons. I don't think they're proven enough for me to draft them in my fantasy league. Hanley Ramirez has proven that he can be a flake.
Yeah.
And he's proven enough to me that I don't want to draft him.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, my turn. So on my list here next is Dee Gordon.
Oh.
And at ADP 74, he's 1 year removed from ruining my fantasy league and a PED suspension.
Yeah.
Because I think I picked him in the third round or the second round. I can't remember.
Didn't he come back, though, and have a decent end of the year?
He came back and he did okay. He stole some bases. I think he stole about 30 bases in half the season. So you could expect 60 stolen bases from these guys. So if that's what you're looking for in stolen bases, Dee Gordon's a guy to get. I wanted stolen bases last year.
Yeah.
And I just, luck of the draw, the guy was using PEDs.
Yeah.
So he's also a good source of runs.
Yeah.
He's going to score a lot of runs because he's stealing a lot of bases, getting into scoring position.
Yeah.
He's hitting in front of, Yelich and Stanton and guys like that. But the downside, he doesn't have anything else to offer. Low batting average, low OPS.
Yeah, he's
no
got
RBIs,
0 to
no
1
runs.
home run.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had him the year he won the batting title.
That was the year before I drafted him and got burned.
Yeah, and so what's funny is my next guy is Dee Gordon, too.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, and I put he had 30 steals in only 79 games. And looking at this, there's both Dee Gordon, there's Matt Carpenter on my list. And so I was planning on, say, like, if I didn't get one of those top guys like a Cano or something like that, and I'm falling, I might have to make a call and look at my team and go, do I want stolen bases or do I want home runs now at second base?
Yeah.
And so I was going to look at Carpenter and Gordon and be like, depending on who I've got so far, add stolen bases or add home runs. I think Dee Gordon could very well win you the stolen base category every week.
Yes, he could.
He'll probably lead the National League in steals, 60, 65 or so.
Yep.
But it is like you need to have home runs on your team if you're going to take him because he's going to have like 0.
Right.
You might be a one inside the park home run.
Yeah, you're gonna need to make up for that lack of home runs and RBIs and OPS or average because he didn't have a great average last year. Ever since the PEDs wore off, his average dipped below 300.
Yeah, well, in the Dodger days, he had a low batting average as well.
Yeah, so he really that 1 year that when he won the batting title, that was a fluke year for him.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's I think it says something that you and I both have Dee Gordon and Matt Carpenter on our list because it's all about strategy. It's all about what are you building on your team, and which guy is going to fit into the slot that you need to fill.
Yeah, and it's going to just really you have to be good at being picking on the fly because say like, if you get the number 1 pick, say you get Trout, you got home runs and stolen bases there both already, and then later on if you got more stolen bases. You might need Mark Carpenter more than you need Dee Gordon.
Yeah, right. I agree. So, is it my turn now since we have the same guy? Or
yeah,
do you
I don't know.
Again?
I guess I could go.
All right.
So I've got one that I'm going to avoid, and that's Matt Kemp. I put a note, don't say Sean Kemp, because I kept calling him that, the old Seattle Supersonics player. But he's 64 Yahoo. Similar story to Hanley Ramirez. Like he kind of had a bounce back home run season last year. I think he had 35 last year. He actually had a home run in the game I went to, Giants playing the Braves. But he's at that point to where you just feel like he's going to fall off. He's been hurt a lot. He had a season about 4 years ago where he had 39 home runs and 40 steals, and I think he was a runner-up for MVP. And that's a huge season to have. But ever since then, he's had little injury problems. And then he had this little bit of a bounce back last year with a low batting average, 35 home run total. And with my outfield strategy, I just don't see him on my team. I just don't trust that he'll do 35 home runs again. I don't think the Braves will have a very good offense. So the run scored and the RBIs may not be there for him. And I would just say avoid this guy.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little story about a man named Matt Kemp. Okay. Back in 2011, this guy hit 39 home runs and stole 40 bases. And then with all the talk in the world, he's like, I'm going to go 50-50.
Oh, I remember that.
That's what he said. He said 50-50. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? I think he could do it. And so I drafted him as my number 1 pick in the 2012 fantasy draft. And guess what he did that year?
Went to the disabled list, I think.
Yeah, he was garbage. He was garbage.
Yeah, he's hurt a
So
lot.
I've been burned by this guy before. Yes, he had a bounce back year last year, shifting between the Padres and the Braves.
Yeah.
The Braves don't have a team. They're not going to compete. They don't have guys hitting around him. I'm not convinced he's going to do it again. So, I mean, he's going, in the 8th round? I think there's guys there that I'd rather have.
Yeah, I think my outfield order would be full at this point.
Yeah.
There's a good odds of that.
Right. I agree.
Let's see.
Okay.
I think it's your turn.
I think it's my turn now.
Okay.
All right. So, let's see. We already talked about Matt Kemp. Here we go. I'm going to talk about a pitcher now. And that is Carlos Martinez. ADP 85. A good pitcher to fill the middle of your rotation. Mm-hmm. Not the first. Don't pick this guy first.
Yeah, well, 85 is awfully low to take your
really
first
low,
pitcher.
To the middle of the ninth round
Yeah.
there. This guy, past 2 seasons, 3.01 ERA and a 3.04. 14 wins, 16 wins. The Cardinals are a good team. Cardinals win games.
Yeah.
He's got an opportunity to win more games than that. He could be a 20-game winner. He is their ace. And he could really improve. I mean, I think he's only 3 seasons in, maybe. So
yeah, he's fairly young.
Yeah, he could get even better. And from what I've read about him, he's going to get better. He's going to put it together even more than he has. This guy could be one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's going deep.
Yeah, and I'd say this is where I like to take a lot of my pitching. And 85, it's kind of like, even if he doesn't live up to the potential, how much does it really hurt you at that type of range?
Yeah.
You could swap out somebody else's going way at the end, like a Garrett Richards or Matt Holliday. No, Adam Wainwright is who I was thinking of. Those types of pitchers that are going super late, stick him on your bench, have this guy in your starter, and if he does great, great. If he doesn't, swap him out.
Right.
So, what does it hurt you to take him at 85?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, he's a talented pitcher.
Yeah.
So.
Well, actually, here's one guy actually going lower than 85. Oh. It's Mark Trumbo.
Oh, Trumbo.
When I checked him, he's going Yahoo 89. And that's way low for a guy that had 47 home runs last year.
That is really low. I talked about this guy a couple videos ago, but I'll talk about him again.
Yeah, and I think people are just doing kind of like the Villar thing. Even though Villar is still going very high, it's like, that season came out of the blue. I can't trust him to do it again.
Right.
But he's done it before. He had some 30 home run seasons back when he was on the Angels. He was always a big dude with a lot of power. Yep. Competed in the home run derbies. I think 35 home runs he does no sweat.
And 35 home runs is admirable.
Yeah.
So,
pick 89.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's great.
No, you don't go into a pick of Trumbo that deep and expect 47 home runs, but he's going to hit you home runs.
Yeah.
30 plus, probably 35.
Yeah.
He's going to be a solid producer of power, and I think the Orioles have a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
I think it's a hitters. That's a hitter's team.
It is. It's one of those ones that don't steal bases because they're waiting for guys to hit home runs.
Yeah. Buck Showalter is managing that team, and I think he's all about offense.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great lineup for him, and I think it's a great park.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Say like Sean Kemp's ranked 64, Trumbo's 89.
You mean Matt Kemp?
Matt Kemp. Oh, I did it.
You wrote it down in your note. You did it anyways.
It's hard for me not to do that because I grew up with Sean Kemp. But yeah, it's like, who made this list where they put Trumbo this far down and Matt Kemp that high up,
right?
Like a couple rounds higher.
Yeah.
When it's like Trumbo had about 12 more home runs, and I think he's more likely to hit 35 home runs next year than Kemp.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Okay. Next on my list, I seem to be drawn to third baseman.
Oh.
Because I got another third baseman
You're
on my
put
list.
Like 5 on your team.
I know, right? I'm just going to stockpile them. And then I can divvy them out in trades throughout the season. Guess so. Although in our league, we don't have a lot of trades.
People are pretty much fall in love with their players, I think. And they have a hard time parting with them. We had some trades in the past.
We had one really big trade season.
Oh, yeah. We had a season where...
I got Mike Trout.
Trout got traded.
I traded for Mike Trout.
I wonder how often that actually happens to where Trout gets traded.
It was probably the only time in all of fantasy baseball that Mike Trout got traded.
Yeah.
But I got Mike Trout, and I think I traded Jared Weaver and another pitcher.
I think catchers were involved in that trade too, like a Weeders.
It was like a 2 for 3 trade.
Yeah.
But I burned him on that deal. Okay, so anyways, back to my pick here, and that's Alex Bregman, ADP 90. And if you're gonna wait, again, going back to someone like Beltre, if you're gonna wait that long, you might as well wait for someone like this, because. So let me see. He had 8 home runs in 49 games last year. That projects to 24 home runs in a full year. This guy's upside makes him a huge value at this draft position. He's young. He's hyped. This guy's supposed to be good. I would take a chance on him, in the 10th round.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've been talking about getting those good first basemen in the first round. How good Chris Bryant and Arenado and those guys are. Third baseman, yeah, and Machado. But don't panic if you don't get one, because there's guys like this fallback. And I'd also throw out the name of Maikel Franco, over 20 home runs last year. Just going to get better.
That guy you're going to get deep.
Yeah, way deep.
Yeah.
We've mentioned a couple others here like Frazier, Carpenter. And
there are options.
Yeah, so
I'm super high on those third basemen in the first round, but you're right. You can get third basemen throughout the draft.
Yeah, so I'd say shoot for it, but don't panic because of guys like this if you don't get one. All right, so I guess I'll skip down on my last guy because we've been doubling up on some of them. But I've got Jonathan Lucroy here. And I have him at 78 Yahoo. And the reason I put him is because he gives you an option to still have one of the top catchers, but wait a couple rounds later than where Schwarber and Posey are going. Those guys Posey and Schwarber are right next to each other on Yahoo right now.
And they're going what round?
I think they're ranked in like the 50s.
Fifth round, sixth round, yeah.
Yeah. And say if you don't want to go catcher that early, this is a guy you could wait a little bit on and do a different strategy.
Yeah.
I've done lots of mock drafts where I took Schwarber or Posey. But there's also this guy to fall back on. Just you got to have some catchers out there because there's two top ones. Then there's the Yankees one, and then Lucroy goes after those. Yeah. Is the fourth of those top tier.
This is very interesting that he's going as deep as he's going because early on, before spring training started, I was seeing people claim that Lucroy was going to be the number one catcher in fantasy, and for some reason he has been leapfrogged by Posey, by Gary Sanchez, the Yankee rookie. And then you got the Schwarber option, which I like the most because he's going to be playing outfield and be catcher eligible.
Yeah.
So.
Lucroy, he just spent the whole year on Texas this year.
Yeah.
And he spent about half the season there last year, and I think that's just maybe he has his best year ever. That's spending the whole year on Texas.
It's a good hitter's park. That's got a good offensive team.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I think he's definitely a good pickup for catcher. You're gonna have one of the best catchers probably for the season.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm on my last pick now too because we had a lot of the same guys going back and forth. So my last guy, I'm going to a pitcher again at ADP 92, and I'm looking for a bounce back year from Zach Greinke.
Yeah.
This is a guy that before last season, 5 straight seasons in a row of 15-plus wins, 4 straight seasons of an ERA below 350, including the 1.66 year he had with the Dodgers before he left the Dodgers. Capable of 200-plus strikeouts. He could be huge value for your fantasy team, picking him up almost at the 100 mark. Yeah. And this is a guy who was going probably second or third round last year.
Yeah, I've been picking this guy up a lot, and I'm glad you mentioned him. He's also done it before. Like back when he was on the Royals, he won a Cy Young. Then the next year, he bounced up to a +4 ERA.
You're right.
And then came back again, and it was good again.
Yeah.
So I would say you could definitely trust this guy to kind of bounce back, especially in that spot. It's the same type of area to where even if he doesn't do it, how bad does it really hurt your team? Because you're not drafting a spot where you're relying on him to be your best pitcher.
Well, and some of the research I was doing said that it was basically like 3 or 4 starts that really blew this guy up. Yeah. He gave up like huge amount of runs. I think 7 runs in like 4 starts, and that just blew his whole season. Yeah. So you take those starts out of the equation, and he probably would have had a decent year, not a great year, not a 1.66 ERA year, but a decent year. And so if he bounces back and goes back just to the standard Greinke, he could be valuable.
Yeah, very, very valuable. Yeah. And also that's the range where I like to take pitchers.
Yeah. It's a good spot to fill in the back of your rotation.
Yeah, it is because that range has got like the Cole Hamels, your Garrett Cole, Greinke, Felix Hernandez is going around that range as well. Yeah. So I think you can really round out your pitching staff there.
Right. All right, so there's some insight for you, 5th through 10th round?
Yeah.
Something along that. Really the meat of the draft. So put down in the comments what you think about our picks. If you've got any picks that you're looking at, throw us your insight. I want to know what you think.
Yeah, and it's almost draft time. Our draft is a couple weeks away.
Yeah,
I think we're doing it on the 30th, something like that.
30th, yeah.
Yeah, so let us know how, if you took any of our suggestions in your draft, or if you totally avoided what we were trying to tell you to pick. I've been doing a lot of mock drafts, and almost every team I've mock drafted, I think I would be happy with. So I'm really looking forward to our actual draft and how our league will look. Usually our league has some surprises, like last year Trout fell all the way to number 4.
Right.
So we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of fun to draft, and hope you guys have just as much fun as we do.
Yeah, I've had like a back and forth on my mock drafts. Like there are some that I just love, and then I've had a few where I'm like, I'm glad that wasn't the real draft.
Yeah.
I haven't done a mock draft actually for a few weeks now. So as we get closer, I'm going to do a lot more so I can really like hone in on what my strategy is going to be, because I don't know.
Yeah, it's time to get your game face on. Sounds like you're
know.
leaning towards pitching this year.
I don't know. You never know.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes, and hopefully we helped you guys win your league.
Yeah. Stay dumb.
All right.